Hello and welcome to Voices of Culture, a podcast where we talk about culture, politics, and our daily lives from a very simple perspective. And today I'm excited to have with me a very, very interesting guest. I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself. She has so many titles, she runs many businesses, and she's everything you would think of in many ways. So she's an enigma of stuff. So I want to give you Gabi. Hi, Gabi.
Hi.
How
That
are
was
you?
quite an introduction. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine too. So
Okay.
I want us to dive right in. This is very casual.
Okay.
So can you tell us a bit about your background and how it has influenced your views on culture and politics? So I want you to introduce yourself and at the same time infuse how was culture and politics affected how you view your background.
Okay. So I'm Gabriella Nashiva or Miss Nashiva on Instagram. Follow me there.
Hi, Lulu.
Lulu is my childhood name actually.
Yes.
So if I go down the history lane, I've really been brought up around the Swahili culture from birth. So Lulu is a precious stone. It's believed to be an Islam name, but no, it's a Swahili name. So for any religion, I have been brought up and raised in Mombasa, a very cultural town in terms of how we carry ourselves, how we cook, how we dress. It's quite a rich in culture town. It's not even a town, it's a city. And from childhood, I've always been brought up in a lot of how to dress, how to deal with people in a very modest and, the way girls were brought up to be very calm, just smile, look good, don't have too much. They're there to be seen, not to be heard. So generally, that's how I've grown up. I started having a voice of my own way later in life. Of course, it's affected how I saw the world because I grew up with a lot of self-esteem issues. I was quite shy. I could not stand in front of people. I had a hard time connecting with people because, again, I'm quite an introvert. So that has been my environment all through life, just in a little bit.
Quite interesting. I told you a part of introduction is part of the podcast. When you're given a chance to introduce yourself, for instance, in an interview, you probably tell us about yourself. Some people would choose to go and give their geographical background.
Yeah.
I am so and so from this area. This is where I went to school. This is what I did. Others would choose to give their educational background, and others would give their passion. I feel like you just had it the perfect way. You combined all those into one.
Yeah.
So it's a thing I like to do with my guests. I want to see how you think, how are you going to combine? How do you see yourself?
How do you?
Yes, exactly.
From my eyes.
Yes. So that's quite interesting. And how would you define culture? What role do you believe it plays in the society?
That's a big one.
Yes, I know.
Culture. I think that's what I was trying to bring out.
Yes.
It's how we conduct ourselves in the community, because you'll realize different communities have different cultures because there are different ways they conduct themselves, what they eat, how they speak to each other, how they interact, their belief systems, their religious systems of belief. Again, there are also those what are they called? Myth and conceptions are different in different regions. The taboos different in different regions. So I feel like all these things contribute. The music, different cultures have different music. So I feel like all these things come together and form the culture of a people.
And do you think, being in the modern times, do you think we have a culture? Because when you talk about culture, most often than not, we're usually talking about the traditional culture. But culture varies.
Yes.
Culture is in many different forms.
Yes.
So do you think we have a culture?
We do.
And does it define our day-to-day lives?
Absolutely.
And okay, we are here, so we're calling this podcast is Voices of Culture. I know there are so many things you're passionate about.
Yeah.
There's a culture that you're passionate about. I want us to delve deep in that.
I'd say absolutely we do have a culture in these modern times, because that's how we're able to differentiate a Gen Z and a millennial, because these people.
Oh no!
I know. I went into that.
You
that.
didn't.
Yes, I did. Because
Okay.
like how a Gen Z person conducts themselves, how they think, the music they like, what they like to eat, what they listen to, completely different. So I feel like even in the modern times, we have different cultures. And even in the, like, if it's Gen Z, you'll find again different type of people in the same group. So I do believe in the modern times we have it. Of course, it's a bit all over the place, and that's why we can relate to comedy. We can relate to entertainment of our time, because it's different, and the people who cannot relate because it's not in their cultural setting of the modern time. Yes.
Okay. I would say I'm certainly traditional when it comes to that,
Yeah.
because I like to think that in modern times, yes, we have created a culture, but is it rooted in any principles as traditional culture was, or we just, as we like to say it, we just wing it, we go with the wind?
Imagine it is. Right now, people are very, I mentioned it a little bit before we started our podcast.
Yes.
That people are so aware of their mental state, of their rights, of their feelings. You know, someone will wake up and they're like, today I'm feeling like my inner person wants this or what. So I feel like our culture right now, there's a way we can define it. There are ways we can define it. So it is rooted in some aspects of things. So yes, it is rooted in something, not what it used to be. Of course, the roots changed, but we still have roots for our modern culture.
What should you say is like the guiding principle of the modern culture?
Ooh,
That's a hard
that's
one.
a good one.
I know. Because right now we're sitting here doing a podcast. 5 years ago, this is not something that you'd have thought.
Yeah.
But now this is part of our culture. You wake up today in the morning and you're thinking, okay, I need to listen to something.
To a
I need
podcast,
to
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's deep in our culture. So okay, I think I'm leading you here, but I'm going to go on with it. Would you say the principle of our modern times is we are quick to adopt change? Rather, we don't overstay stuff. Like if something comes and we see, this is working for us, we're on board.
I think, okay, the initial question was, what
is the guiding principle of the modern culture?
The modern culture, I would say social media, a lot of social media and visual, the visual media has played a huge role in our likes and dislikes. The way you're saying, we change our mindsets quite frequently. Today you like this, tomorrow you're like, no. And influencers, you know, the people we watch influence our day-to-day unknowingly, actually, because you think, I'm just watching so and so, I like to listen to their podcast because I just love how they speak or their perspectives, but they're influencing your choices, what you eat, because you know they always put out there, this is what I'm doing, I love to work out. Workout became a whole movement. Everyone works out.
It's a whole industry now.
Exactly. Makeup just started by one person loving it. People love to listen to them and watch them. Now it became a whole thing. So I feel like social media plays a huge role in our perspective, and social media is from all the things we find, let me say, on our phone, our laptops, our TVs. I would say social media, print media, because again there's blogs and vlogs. All these things have come and played a huge role and have really grounded our perspective.
What we call new media.
Exactly. That's
hold that thought just for a moment. Okay. So would you say that the fact that we are influenced by social media, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Okay, I'm going to take sides. I think it's a bad thing. Yes. because I think we should be our own persons. And in as much as you have all this media that has come our way, what it should be pushing you towards is you finding yourself, not you trying to be like the other person. And I feel like social media definitely is always pushing us towards like, hey, I want the holiday in Maldives, I want this trip to Dubai, and like those are cliche things that you see every day,
and you want it fast,
and yes, you want to be the first guy to have it and all that. This is a good side to social media, but again, I feel like you really have to have self-awareness, something you brought up in the beginning.
I think just take sides, take that is bad, let me deal with the good. You see, the way you're saying that you should be your own person. I think back in the day, all through a human being's life, there were always people and situations to influence their behaviors. See, back in the day, it was our aunties and uncles who would sit with us, tell us stories to influence good behavior, perhaps, or good morals or life lessons, you know? So we kind of lost that to some extent. And, you know, when one thing exists, another one has to replace it. That's how life is. So I feel like social media came in to replace that, because again, in the modern time, there's no time to meet as families. Work, distance, all these things have contributed to family setting being divided, so to speak. So social media comes in as a way to replace that. Because who are you listening to? Who are you talking to? Who guides you when you have these issues of life? So we find different people coming in on the platform. Now, unfortunately, people come from all sorts of walks of life. Some come to impact good, some come to impact negative. But I think it's because there is no base of who speaks to our lives. Okay. And at any point in life, a human being needs that.
Okay. I hear you. But you've touched on the issues of your aunties and grandparents and who used to speak to the older generation, the young generations back in the time.
Yeah.
But I feel that it's the same trap whereby they were molding you to be what the ideal person they think is the ideal person.
Yes.
But the modern technology, the information age gives us a unique opportunity. You have the opportunity to explore yourself, something that you have not had before.
Yes.
For you, when you found someone in the past, when you look at culture and the past and the traditions, when someone was out there and outspoken, they were either very well adored and given that, hey, he's a leader and all that. I'll give you an example of Mekatilili Wamenza. And she's a woman who was going against all the odds of the time. And she was given that. And you can imagine there must have been other places where someone stood, but they were not given that chance. Their standing up was taken as rebellion, and it was trounced upon. So I think it's almost the same thing that we had. Nothing new ever happens. We're in the same place, but now I think we have better fighting chances in history.
Yes.
And there was this interview I was watching about Elon Musk. And he was saying that he was asked this question. Having read his story and all the things that have come in the past, at what point would you choose to be in time? And then he said something that I completely agree with. Like, this is the best time to be in time because the most interesting things are happening now.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So because you have all the opportunities, it's upon you to differentiate yourself and go out there and take it for yourself.
And the good thing now, we're exposed to see someone from all through the world. You know, like Mekatilili was from her village, but now you can be from your village to the world. So I think it's true. The opportunity is amazing to grow, to let people hear you and speak to you. And I believe that's why this podcast is quite timely.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You talked Okay, I want to dive in that topic that it's quite taboo. It's not taboo per se, but we have all this debate going around about the whole LGBT aspect and all that.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no.
I want I know. I want you to weigh in, not in the way of if you support or you don't support. But when you look at it, do you think this debate is genuine or is being pushed by someone behind the curtains? And that's my question. I'm not asking if it's right thing or wrong thing, but do you think this debate is genuine?
I mean, I don't think anything is just a coincidence. We have coincidences in life, but this one is not, because nothing comes to our media platforms by accident. You know, there is an agenda, and I believe there are people pushing for this agenda to succeed. And they have quite some money to push the agenda. That's why they're pushing the agenda. So yes, there is an agenda being pushed, and there are some people pulling the rope so that it goes through.
Okay, I asked you that question based on the other question we talked about, how in the modern culture, we are quick to adapt. So are they counting on the effect that if they give the influencers, if they give the whatnot, that we're just going to swallow ourselves and let the whole thing pass?
You know, I feel like for, so to speak, Western countries, they have achieved this. So probably they were having an issue with this situation. Okay, let me just call it, with LGBTQ being accepted in the African continent. Because you see, we are very, very rich in our culture and our beliefs. And it's something that is completely an abomination in all African settings. It was not something that was accepted. However, the people who say it used to happen back in the day, of course, it could be that it used to happen, but it's not something that the community accepted. That's why it was never taught or put in our system as a belief system for us, you know? And so I feel like for now, they want to push this agenda, maybe because they want to create more content on the same, because we've seen a lot of movies on Hollywood. They have been pushing this agenda for the last 10 years, if not more, and more aggressively actually in the past 5 years. You don't miss a series or a movie with some action, you know? And you see, you would find in some African countries that was rejected. They rejected maybe the content and the movies and the music. But now they feel like for them to push the agenda maybe further, they need to convince these countries to get on with the agenda so that they able to sell more of whatever ideologies they have.
Do you know the funniest thing that these guys get to do?
Yeah.
Is make you choose a side. Like,
I know.
And
why?
at the end of the day, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help.
I know.
You realize
it's definitely an agenda being pushed down our throats.
You do realize, even in Kenya, before even the court ruling, these things were allowed, but the court was like, you do your thing, just don't push it down other people's throats.
Yeah.
But I feel like, this guy wants to push it our throats and shove it further. Like, hey, you have to like, take
why?
this.
You know,
exactly.
They definitely have an agenda with this. They want to be passing more laws, you know, they want to have more freedom in the community. And I feel like, imagine you've been doing your thing.
We don't have freedom walking with our girlfriends holding hands right now. What are you talking about?
Sorry?
We don't have freedom walking with our girlfriends holding hands in the streets right now.
So they want us to skip that step and we move now to them walking on the streets. Because that's not African. It's not been in our culture. You know, like show love at home. We know you're in love, but please do it at home or when you're the two of you or three or however many you are. Okay,
it's a sensitive topic.
Yeah,
okay, it's a sensitive topic, and also at the same time, maybe we are maybe it's made sensitive. Maybe it's not so sensitive. But you know, it's an agenda.
The more it's pushed down our throats, the more sensitive it gets.
So I think that's one of the negative sides of the social media aspect. Yeah. So I want to.
But no, it's moved from social media. It's now in our governments. It's now
media,
in our judicial system. They're like literally pushing it all over the place.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, is it the death of one of them that caused attention to us as a country? I really wonder.
To some point, I'm feeling like, maybe the whole thing was planned.
Maybe. You have a point somewhere there.
It's not a coincidence.
You
Like you
have a
said,
point
like,
somewhere in there.
and we definitely established that this was not like homophobic crime, but the way the international media took it was like, hey, the person was being killed, and then immediately
things started going the way
going
they have.
south.
Yeah. So that was last month, right?
You gotta ask some questions.
Yeah.
You gotta ask. Yeah, it's even last month.
Yeah.
Not even that far. Okay, I want to. There's this question. There was a World Cup that was in Qatar, and one of the major things was how many things that were outlawed and people had to get along with it. And I remember in one of the interviews, one of the guys who were responsible for announcing for organizing the World Cup, it was very clear, and he said that you don't have to force your culture on other people's. Like, your culture is not the only correct culture.
Yeah.
And he went on to state that how they had compromised for the guys from the Western world to feel accommodated in Qatar, because the guys from Western world were like, they want come bring the same agenda, LGBT agenda, girls not wearing.
To Qatar?
Yes. I remember there's an old story about a player who went to the field in a number, and the rainbow thing. Yeah. And they had to be taken off. There's a whole story. When you Google it, you'll see it.
Come on.
Yes. So this guy was like, you don't have to force your culture upon us. It doesn't mean your culture is superior than ours.
Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking that, so I want to ask you this question. Do you think that once you get to understand someone's culture, it's better for you to appreciate it better? And when you're thinking that my culture is the best, it's hard for you to appreciate anyone else's culture.
First, I think when you go to Rome, do what Romans do. I mean, that's why when we go to for example, Islamic countries, we will tie our heads, because it's in respect that you appreciate we are different, And when you go to someone else's home country, that's them. They have their own culture. You either try and adapt to it, or you don't go there. I mean, there are countries I would say I never want to go there. I wouldn't mention any because of how their culture is. I just don't desire to go there. So you see, if you don't like something, don't. Especially if it comes to coming into someone's space, and this is someone's country, culture, leave it as it is. If they see the need to adapt to yours, they will. But let it be something very willing, comes from a willing place, that they are interested to know how you do things. Because I feel like with, let's say, for example, the Bantus, there's a lot of culture that intertwines because they borrowed from each other. There is borrowing from another person's culture, but you don't come forcing someone to take your culture or your beliefs or the things you do. Yes. And I feel like sometimes being in this very liberal time and being in a society that is full of, what's the word? We are very, you need to...
We have pressure to conform.
Yeah. And there's this... We are too entitled. That's the word. You are entitled to your opinion and now you think everyone else should, align to your entitled beliefs and all that. So I feel like go to Rome, do what Romans do. You don't like it, don't go there.
Okay, a quick one. On the same topic, on the same line of thought. Do you think things will get better over the next 3 years line, or things will just, go south?
In relation to
the people not appreciating each other's culture, or people just being indifferent to what other cultures are?
No, I feel like we do have quite a tolerance for other people's culture so far. I mean, apart from those, like what you said happened in Qatar. But you see, Islam, they are quite a culture that has always stuck to what they believe. They are very strict on their beliefs. Again, it's rich in culture in terms of Islam beliefs and traditions. So you would expect such from such countries that are full of, it is one way or no way. But I feel like with time, with the new generation, with the new generations coming up, Gen Z, they're very open-minded. We're getting, younger people who are willing to adapt and accommodate others. So I feel like with the coming years, we will have more accommodation of each other's culture. I feel like the older people were the ones that were very rigid. I mean, that's why we had world wars. But with me, I feel like when I go to someone's culture, I'll be like, oh, really? I would be curious to know how they do things. Not because I want to be take them home with me. No, I'll just be curious to know how they cook, how they eat, how they walk, where they buy things, what are the belief systems, what are they taught. Not because I will want to adopt, but just to appreciate the culture. So I feel like we are quite accommodative, especially as the younger generation compared to the older one.
That's true.
Yeah.
I want to, I draw a span in the works.
Yeah.
I believe when it comes to wars, most people just go because they have to, especially if you're just a common civilian.
Yeah.
And you're told, hey, it's time to go fight. And you have no say. You're already enrolled to the army or you have to follow the commands.
Yeah.
So you find at times even political leaders decide the wars, not in their ego, not even you, the army captains and all that.
Yeah.
So I think one of the ways to...
So they were forced to go for these wars.
These wars were planned. Okay, when it comes to world wars, that's a whole debate together for me. I feel like there was a positive side to it, there was a negative side to it. Of course, no one enjoys death and all that. But the technological advancement that came from it, yes.
You're definitely a tech guy. For me, I'm looking at from a humanitarian point of view.
From a humanitarian point of view, that was bad, really bad.
Yeah.
And the same thing that is happening in Ukraine. Okay, we don't have for Ukraine. I think it's more political, geopolitical rather. Yes, but that's a whole other debate.
Yeah.
So was it's more the guys at the top decide.
Yeah.
Your job is just to fire and fire.
But it all comes from someone believing in their own ideologies and not accommodating someone else's.
Exactly.
So I wonder, I think now I'm digesting your question even more. I'm wondering if in the next 20, 50 years, will we have wars like those from people who...
I think we live in a brink of, we could wake up today and tomorrow you're like, hey, we're in a war.
Oh Lord, I hope not.
There's always tension. There's always tension all over. You hear China and USA, North Korea and USA, you have Russia and Ukraine ongoing. So you never know. But anyway, before war happens, you tend to see it coming
there
sometimes.
Signs.
Yeah.
There are signs.
But okay, I don't want to mention that, but you'll notice if you're in the loop, you'll know when war's coming. For instance, if it's in a country that is about to be attacked, let's say China is about to be attacked by US, US will like withdraw its people from there immediately, all that. And one surprising thing that happened, I learned about this and I was like, whoa, do you know that major countries, I don't know, some countries in what you call the G8, they pulled out their ambassadors from Turkey before the earthquake happened. Imagine
No
that.
way.
Imagine that.
They knew it.
I was like, damn.
They knew
That's
it.
a rabbit hole I need to go.
And that is so bad.
I
Because they
know.
didn't raise any
There's a whole
sensitization.
there's a whole talk about how the whole thing was not natural. But that's a whole other story. Yes.
Or-
But I don't want to get to that.
Okay.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
We can just...
I want to ask you one last question. And then we close.
Okay.
One thing that helps us differentiate our culture or appreciate other people's culture is definitely reading and consuming intellectual stuff. Now, to our listeners, this is going to hit you right well. What book would you recommend for someone to go read?
Oh, wow. Okay. There's a book I sent you by
Yes.
Brené Brown. I loved it. It was magical. Goodness. Could you find the name?
Okay, just on
Let's
it,
just
but
check if you
go
can.
ahead.
I loved the book because, going back to how I grew up, I was someone who really lived in my head a lot and always overthinking things, actions, before I do things, before I make any step. I think about it long enough to just think myself out of doing the thing all together. So I love this book because when she wrote it, she really encouraged you to live life and color it in whatever colors you want. I remember she spoke about going to a very native village in some country. I don't remember which country, but she went.
Is it big magic, creative, or is it breaking the habit of yourself?
Big magic.
Big magic,
Yes.
creative living beyond fear.
Yes.
Okay.
I love this book because I'm a creative. I love to be creative. I feel myself. I feel alive when I'm creative. So she spoke about going to this native village, and she met one person who she's not been able to forget. And this was a very poor, very, very poor farmer, but he had one cow. And this farmer decorated that cow to another extent. He had colors on the horns, and he had like two rings that when it walks, it makes two sounds. So she found it very fascinating that this is the only thing he owned. But then he made sure it's as beautiful as it could possibly be. So I love that the book really teaches you on how to just live life, color it however you want, be you, and whatever gifts that are within you, to really explore on them. And I feel like from then, I've really appreciated creative people, from artists to people who are songwriters, to people who create content. It's made me to athletes, because these are all people. And that's why it's like, whatever, even if you're just a hairdresser, how do you make this hair? Make it as beautiful as possible. It makes you explore more on your creativity, because you get to appreciate it. And when you appreciate your own creativity, it's very easy for you to appreciate someone else's creativity. So again, it comes to most of the things that we believe in a culture come from, like the foods we have in different cultures, they come from experimenting different things. The clothing, so the moment you appreciate creativity of someone else or the gifts, it's easy for you to look at someone else's culture and appreciate it, even if you don't completely agree with it. So I feel like this is the one book that really opened my eyes to the beauty of life and of creative humans.
Okay.
And we're all creative, actually.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to make money. I want you to go to
lovely.
I want you to go to Amazon, create an account with them,
yes,
and refer us to the book. So when someone wants to buy the book, they can buy it using the link. I'm going to share the link in the description of this podcast.
Love you.
So make sure you do it. I'm not going to follow you up on that.
Yeah, me and IT, I struggle there. Yes. I do struggle.
It's simple. It's not that big. Amazon affiliate program, or just any other affiliate program, people selling books, and see if you can get that. And if anyone, the book is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, Creative Living Beyond Fear. The book that our guest today has suggested to us. So thank you so much, Gabriella, for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, listeners, for listening to us up to that point. We hope you enjoy the podcast. We hope you enjoy the conversation that we had.
Yes.
This has been Creative Voices of Culture, our podcast about our culture, our politics, and our daily lives. So see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.